going through fucking 19 now. I don't know, this gig is sort of called a lifetime gig, but I seem to be backwards and forwards, but who gives a shit. I used to live in this flat, right, with this guy, right? He was a great guy, and we lived on the 10th floor, right? He was a bit of a weird guy, though, because he kept rabbits. Maybe that's where that comes from. He kept rabbits, right, on the 10th fucking floor, right? But he had them on the balcony. And there's big fucking gaps. So anyway, he had these fucking rabbits. And I lived with him, and everything was cool. And one day, he just drove me fucking mad. And I said to him, I said, do you want a cup of tea? He said, yeah, go on then. So I made him a cup of tea, and we sat down watching telly. And he's drinking his cup of tea. He gets to his last mouthful, and he said, you dirty bastard. I said, what? He said, there's a piece of rabbit shit in this. I said, yeah, don't worry about it, there was 3. That's the kind of friend I am, honestly. I am. There was this other guy, God rest his soul, right? I'm going to mention him in this gig because he's a brilliant guy. His name was Blue, passed away last year, brilliant bloke. But I did something to him that is just, you shouldn't do it to a friend, but I'm going to share this story with you. I used to go to his house quite a lot, and because of the journey, I would get a taxi. Now it happened that he used the same taxi firm, well he had a taxi firm that took him to work, so I would use that taxi firm to get home. Now every time I used to get in this taxi, they were nosy bastards, as taxi drivers usually are. And they kept saying to me, how do you know him? Where do you come from? Because they happen to be Asian. I've got nothing against Asians, just the only way I can remember the conversation. And they would constantly ask me questions and questions, every time. So this one time, I just had enough of it. So I'm sat in the car, and I happened to have a big box of, they happened to be World of Warcraft miniatures, but I had them in this box, and I had to put the box in the boot. So I'm sat in this car, and this guy, you know, how long have you known him? Blah, 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 blah. And I thought, you know what, fuck this. So I said, oh, he just rings me from time to time if he needs, you know, if he needs some company. So he says, oh, do you work with him? Do you work with him? So I said, well, no, I wouldn't say work. I said, you know, if he's a bit lonely, if he needs some, like, entertainment, he might ring me up and I'll come over. What do you mean, entertainment? I said, well, you know, entertainment. I don't know what you mean. So I said to him, I said, well, he's lonely. I'm young. Do the math. And he looked at me as if to say, no, I don't get it. So I said, okay, let's put it this way. I said, you know in the boot, that box that you've got? In the boot? He said, yes. That's got a rubber dildo in it. Oh my God! Right? Now that in itself is fine. To me, that was funny as fuck. It shut him up and I got a laugh out of it. It wasn't until I'd got home and I sat down that I suddenly clicked, oh my God, this poor bastard has to use this taxi firm every day to go to work. And they're going to be picking him up, thinking that he's... So yeah, friends like me, you don't fucking need them, honestly. Innit, you gotta live life though, you really have, because if you don't, you just grow old and you think, where did it all go? Innit? I tell you another thing, there is a saying that is very true. Be a man, admit when you're wrong. Do you know why that saying is, be a man, admit when you're wrong? Because women would never admit, because they're never wrong. That's why there's not a saying, be a woman, admit when you're wrong, you see? You should listen to these sayings.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Exactly.
Innit? I don't know what to say about women. I can say a lot of things about women, but I can't think at the top of my fucking head. Give me a second, this is my first gig. How's it going so far?
Very good.
Great.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's good, but you can pay me later.
Da 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 da. Nature programs, I love them. Documentaries, yes, yes. The thing I love about documentaries, or nature ones in particular, especially the geezers that fight the crocodiles. Remember that one? Kangaroo Skippy, whatever his name was, I don't know.
No.
Steve Irwin, that was it. Right. The thing I used to wet myself because I'm sat here in Manchester watching this guy who I had a lot of respect for, and I used to love the way he would like tackle this fucking crocodile, get him down. But to be fair to the guy, he would always give us a warning: whatever you do, don't try this at home. And at that point, you've really got to think of where you live. And I mean, I've looked out of my window many a time, but I've never seen a crocodile, alligator, lion or tiger, or anything like that running in the fucking back garden for me to even try and wrestle with. My tip to these filmmakers is work out where the programme's being shown, and do you really need a warning at the end of each fucking item? Because sometimes you just don't. That was another thing, going back to insurance. They said to him, in the last 25 years, right, he insured with them last year. But they've got a new question this year for him, which is, in the last 25 years. It's like, well, look on last year's, you would have fucking been able to answer this question yourself. Do you know of anyone within 400 yards that have had a flood? Now, my mate, he's a very honest man, and that's his downfall. So he said, well, yes, my next door neighbour, they had a flood in the cellar. Alright? Next question from this woman, how deep was it? At which point, he turned around and said, I haven't really got a clue, but I'll try and gauge it for you. She's about 5'4", it got to the top of her Wellingtons. Her husband's like 6'3", it was halfway up his. I've got no idea how deep the fucking flood was. He then got told that they had to then contact their superiors to find out if they could give him fucking insurance. Right? He's nearly 70. So he sat there for an hour now thinking he's not going to get insured. Then they ring you back an hour later saying, yeah, it's okay, we'll insure you. It's fucking madness. That's why I don't get insurance.
Well,
I don't.
It's to measure them.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I tell you what, I remember my dad, God rest his soul, he's in heaven now. Or I think he's in a fucking mothership, but that's definitely another gig, because I'm not even going on there. But, right, the thing about my dad, right, is he was a good man. He was like a yeti. And I don't mean that in a bad way. No, what I mean by that is he was a big man, very fucking hairy, and he looked like a yeti. So, but he was a ginger guy, right? Now, I'm blonde, right? And I've always been blonde. I've always wanted to be white. Don't know why, but it's, you know, it's never going to happen now, trust me. Now, my dad taught me a lot, you know, he taught me to respect a woman, he taught me, you know, before you cross the road, look left and right, and all that shit. But one thing he never told me, and I'm going to make it my life to tell you people this, because this can fuck people up. I'm now in my 40s. I got my first ginger pube at 38. Ginger, right? Now, I've got nothing against gingers. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, right? Ginger people have as much right as anyone else to be ginger. I have got no fucking problem, right? But don't hide behind my fucking blondness. My dad should have told me there was a chance that when I was getting... My eyebrows have gone ginger. I've got ginger pubes, and I used to be blonde. This could have wrecked my relationship. Imagine if my missus had been racist against gingers. That would have been the end of it there. Right there and then. So as well as your six-packs transforming into breasts, right, look at your father. If your father has got ginger hair and you're thinking, haha, mine's black, don't be a smug bastard, because it will catch up on you. You will start turning ginger when you least expect it. Honestly, you really will. Well, I'm actually gonna finish it now, because yeah, I've done half an hour. I am chuffed to bits, and the only reason I've still got loads more shit. But the only reason why I'm finishing it now is because my poor kids want to go on the internet. I'm happy with that show. I hope you lot were. So I'm gonna stop recording now, unless anyone wants to say anything about the gig. I don't mind leaving that in if anyone wants to say anything. That's cool. But the gig itself, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just finishing the gig, so I'm just stopping the recording, that's all.